This morning, though, we pick up our sermon series, Generosity, and we're looking at what it means to be generous with our time, with our talents, with our treasures, with every facet of our lives. And last week, we heard in the message that generosity is God, that everything we have, our lives, this planet, our relationships, our gifts, and our abilities are examples of the generous love that God has bestowed upon us. And that our generosity and how we use those things is our faithful response, the gratitude of our hearts towards Him. And that's a lesson that we're going to continue with this morning as we look at our passage from Mark chapter 12. That generosity is to God. That's the why of what we do when it comes to the giving of who we are, what we have. It should be our purpose. Now, I'll admit I had a great sermon illustration for this message on Friday evening at like 6:30, maybe 7:30 or so. But then unfortunately, the weekend happened. And it doesn't seem to have the same effect that it did before. I'll say that it was about the power of friendship overcoming the highest payroll in baseball, and about why that worked. About a 22-year-old rookie pitcher with less than 10 major league starts, firing up his 41-year-old teammate playing in his fourth World Series with 4 different teams. About 2 guys, Bo and Vladdy, who came up through the minors together, celebrating wins with Shane Bieber coming off a major injury, who arrived this season at the trade deadline. I was going to quote for you Ernie Clement when he said, "He gets to play with 30 of his best friends. I don't think that happens every year in a way you don't want it to end." And then on top of that unlike any other team in the major leagues, they are playing for not just a city, but they were playing for a country as well. And I was going to quote Vladdy when he said, "When a country gives you love, you're going to give that love back. That's what I'm doing right now. I want to win, and I want to win for our fans in Canada." About the Blue Jays understanding their why and it leading them to the ultimate prize. But that's sports. And I don't know how Toronto sports fans do this with the Game 7 defeats. It's got to be rough for Leaf and Blue Jay fans. The best stories don't always get written. And while it's a little painful to think about it right now, the illustration still does work. Because win or lose, champions or runners up, they did it for the right reasons. They gave all that they had. They played, yes, for themselves to win a World Series. They played for their teammates, for one another, for their brothers in that locker room. They played for their city. They played for this country. They understood very well the why of what they were doing when they went out on the field each and every day. Something that Jesus was trying to help the disciples see in the situation in front of them that we read about this morning. Now, as we opened our text today, we were kind of halfway through a scene that had been developing in the temple courts during the final week of Jesus' life. Now, it's believed that this would have happened in an area known as the Court of Women, and that area could hold up to 15,000 people. But in the midst of all of that movement and all that was going on, Jesus is going to draw the disciples' attention to a few things and teach them a valuable lesson about generosity to God. So just prior to our passage in verses 38 to 40, Jesus has begun his teaching, and this is what Mark records. He says, "Watch out for the teachers of the law. They like to walk around in flowing robes and be greeted with respect in the marketplaces, and have the most important seats in the synagogue and the places of honor at banquets. They devour widows' houses and for a show make lengthy prayers. These men will be punished most severely." Jesus is drawing their attention to the fact that because of what they're doing and how they're doing it, these teachers of the law. And the flowing robes would have been worn by the learned. They would have been signs of their status in the church and in the community. Being greeted in the marketplace would have shown their celebrity status, that they were honored above other people. The chief seats I read this week would have been the ones closest to the ark, that they would have faced everyone else when they were sitting there looking down on them. And places of honor at the banquets would have been couches there for reclining, the most comfortable seats that anyone could have. Jesus is highlighting for the disciples that they were in love with the religious show, the perks of their positions, of lording that over other people. They were smug and pompous, as evidenced by their lengthy prayers designed to draw them followers and distract from their treatment of the most vulnerable in their society. Their generosity was a show for the people to demonstrate how pious they were. The first example as they took in the scene around them, but there were others obviously that Jesus was watching and was telling them about as well. Because verse 41 tells us that also in front of them were many rich people who threw in large amounts of money. Now, it doesn't say they were doing this in order to be seen or waving it around or with expectations of being acknowledged somehow as the teachers of the law did. But Jesus shares later that the issue for him was they gave out of their wealth. What they were offering to God was from the surplus of what they had. There was not a real sacrifice to the giving they were making at that time. They most likely kept to the 10% principle because that was what was required. They were doing what they were supposed to do. No more, no less. But their act would be contrasted with the widow, a woman who didn't bring much from an earthly point of view. The amount was believed to be about 1/64th of a denarius, which was the equivalent of 1 day's work. Offering it, probably trying to hide in the crowd, hoping that no one would notice her going up because of how little and such a small amount that she was given. Not realizing that in those moments she was seen by the great I Am. Jesus knowing that it was literally all she had. That in that moment she was offering from her poverty. She was surrendering everything back because of the goodness of God. The widow being highlighted for the disciples as the example that they were to follow, because Jesus was not concerned with the what was being given, but the why they were giving it, the heart of what was happening in front of them. The first two groups offered from their abundance for their glory, only what was required, holding back what they needed to build their own kingdom and following. But the woman had humbly come forward, offering everything she had because she knew who she was offering it to. That what she had before, what she had then, and what she would gain in the future was from and for God, no guarantees. She understood that generosity is God, and so her response was to demonstrate generosity to God, the why behind the giving. It was not about how much, but how willing she was to offer it back. Not about what the cost was, but what he had done for her. Not about who would receive it, what the church would do with it, whether or not she liked the sermon from the previous week, whether they were offering programs she wanted to attend. She was compelled to give because of who it was that had blessed her with it and his calling to give it back to him. No, I don't believe Jesus was advocating in these moments for people to give everything that they had all the time, but more so to be willing should that be the case. That if what is required is all, that they would be willing to offer it just as she did. Jesus teaching this financial lesson to him in the moment, knowing it would not be long before they too would be asked to offer everything in service to him. Their time, their relationships, their talents, their lives in the days following his death, and the days that they would have remaining here on this earth. That they would be reminded, hopefully, in those moments when it became difficult, that it was not the what that was important in their giving, but the why. A lesson that even in their loss, the Blue Jays reminded us over the last 3 weeks, as it was not just the stars stepping up in big moments, but bench players and little-known relievers making amazing plays to win games. It was players playing through injuries that would have kept them out for weeks or months in the regular season to be there for their teammates. It was pitchers offering whatever they had to come out of the bullpen or to pitch on short rest if the team needed them to. It was people completely spent striving to bring some kind of glory back to the city and to this country. And it's a lesson that we need to emulate over the course of this sermon series, but every day as we consider what we can offer to God, how generous we will be, you will be, I will be with what we've been given, with our time, with our talents, with our treasures. That yes, what we offer is important. Jesus doesn't condemn the rich in this moment for having a lot or too much, but for what they gave, but the heart of why they gave it. He condemns them because they gave for show, for likes and views, only gave what they had to, what was asked, nothing more, nothing less. And what they gave no doubt helped, but what they could have given would have made a kingdom's difference. So what are you offering to him? Are we? But more importantly, why are we giving it? And what is he asking us to give? Are we offering our time, our talents, and our treasures to him? And if we are, praise God, but to what level? Are we offering our time because we like the way the black shirts look on us? Because we like to be on the video on Sunday morning or standing in front of the group sharing our knowledge? Because we like the camaraderie of the people around us? Are we using our talents to build a following for ourselves? To be invited to the next concert or event to showcase how well we can do something? Are we doing these things to gain the acclaim of people? Because when we aren't acknowledged publicly, we leave feeling unfulfilled. Are we giving some of what we have financially, knowing there is more we could be contributing? Would we be willing to give more if the message is one we like, or the music sounds like we want it to, or if the program it's going to will benefit me or someone that I care about? Because giving for all of those reasons is okay. God will take those offerings and he'll use them for his kingdom. He'll make good of what is being offered. But he didn't create us to be okay. He hasn't blessed us to do the minimum. He hasn't gifted us to offer just enough. He has generally gifted each of us with time, with talents, and with treasures, with the hope that we would offer those things back to him. That whether we've been given a lot or a little, we would offer all that we are, all we can be, all that we have, all that is me, as we sing sometimes on a Sunday morning. And why would we do it? Because of Jesus. That we would stop and take a moment to see what he did for us. That he came to earth, that he walked among us, that he lived a perfect life, dying the perfect sacrificial death. That he came to do those things to give us everything he had, and that we would offer the same in return. That in light of his sacrifice for our salvation, that we would ask ourselves why when it comes to our giving, and realizing that it's all given as generosity to God. Now, the standard has always been 10% because that's a good round number. It's a biblical number. But it's one that I've come to realize was meant as a guide, not as a rule. Because the number 10 in the Bible signifies completeness, divine authority, order, and human responsibility. It's giving all that we're being asked to give, our full, complete giving. So maybe right now that looks a little bit more like 6% of what you have because you're giving to support family or friends in need, offering it to support someone struggling to find their place here in Canada, giving to put food on the table. Then bless you for giving all he's asking you to give. For giving as the widow did on that day. But maybe as you reflect on it, 6-7% of what you've been given is not enough. 10% is not enough. Maybe our tithe of what we have, our 10% needs to be 50 or 60%. 80 or 90%. Perhaps God is asking us for 100% of what we are, of what we have, and what we've been given, to offer everything to him, our very lives included. That we would choose to offer back to him not just the time we have left over, to attend just the events that interest us, that we would not just go and see or call the people we like to talk to, but that we would show up when it's inconvenient, when we don't feel like it, when there are other things we want to do or could be doing. That we'd show up for intergenerational events, for the community events, for programs and concerts. That we would get to know the families here, to show up to support our young people at their sporting and other events. That you and I would show up for each other when we're down and hurting, in need of support, when we need someone to lean on or to celebrate with. That we would choose to offer all of our talents back to him, giving from our a lot or a little in order that he might be glorified, that people would become his followers, not mine. Now, not all of us have been gifted to do the things that others do, but all of us are talented, have been uniquely blessed and gifted by God. So if you're sitting there thinking, I have this talent that could be used, I have this skill that's been gained in my professional life that I can offer, I could probably do that thing with a little bit of training. Come and see us. Because there's a place for each and every one of you in the body of Christ. Now, it might not look like you think it will, or it might not be what you want it to be, but there is a place, and we will help you find it. We can use all of the talents you have if you're willing to offer them. And then we need to consider the why of what we're giving of our tithe, of our treasures. Now, this is the part of the sermon where I'm going to ask you to give some more so Colleen and I can get a new plane. Or I can build my watch collection, or a new wing on our estate, or some Air Jordans, or something cool like that. I'm kidding. And hopefully if we cut this, that'll show up the I'm kidding part, not the other stuff. But it is the point where I'm going to ask you to consider what you are financially giving. Are you giving all? Enough? Something? Perhaps nothing? That we would look at the amount that we've been given and ask, am I giving from the excess? Am I giving just because it's required? Am I giving what is required, or am I giving from all I've been blessed with? Am I giving him first and then focusing on the rest? Am I offering him the first fruits of the harvest? Am I giving so it hurts? Giving that might mean perhaps one less Tim's run during the day. Having takeout one less time a week, going to one less concert outing or sporting event a month, taking a less extravagant vacation this year in order to give back what is required to him. Giving, though, that will allow us to continue to see families blessed through the ministry of community services. To see our young people continue to deepen their faith through our kids' programs and day camp in the summer. That will allow us to continue to see our friends and neighbors, our parents and our grandparents, the people perhaps sitting right beside us right now who are hurting and lonely, have the chance to come to this place where they can be welcomed, valued, embraced, and encouraged. That, friends, is why we should be giving. Because God is doing a mighty work. He's opening doors and softening hearts, and he wants us to be a part of the solution to the problems of suffering humanity. He wants us to offer back to our generous God what he's blessed us with to be used for his purposes. To give generously of our time, of our talents, of our treasures, not to be concerned with what it is, what it will be used for, or even what it will cost, but being committed to the why we give. To respond to a God who is generosity by offering our generosity to him.